This guy is a guy that I've really learned to appreciate. I think he's a very smart guy. I tell people all the time that Note School gets to really train some smart people, but this guy certainly fits in that category, and at a high level, and just a fun guy. And I've really gotten to know him well. And he's really a kind of a rookie at Note School. He's not been with us for years and years, but he has certainly gone and taken it and executed it well. And so, Brian, I want to introduce Mr. Jim Griffin.
And hello, Eddie.
How are you?
Very good. Nice to be on with you.
Yes, sir. Nice to have you. And I'm so glad that we got to hang out a little bit today. And you have quite an interesting story. And I hope I do a good job of extracting it. Because you really have a great story. Little bit of just an interesting story, because we have a lot of well-read people that hang out with us at Note School, and so your dad is a pretty famous author.
That is true.
He wrote a very interesting book, and it really is about the Federal Reserve and some things that people don't know about the Federal Reserve. Is that right?
That's right. The Creature from Jekyll Island, G. Edward Griffin. Yes.
So you have been influenced all of your life by people studying the market and studying things that happen and things that are likely to happen in the future, right?
Yeah. Imagine that dinner conversation at 6 years old, 10 years old, 12 years old,
Well, tell your dad hello. We have a lot of fans of your dad in the Note School area, and so just glad that he could impart some knowledge on you, and you can later share it with us. So we get to enjoy that. So you're from Tucson, Jim.
Yes.
You've been in Tucson a long time?
No, it's not by random chance that I'm in Tucson. I picked Tucson because I love it, but also because the market dynamics in Tucson are quite interesting. A lot of people don't know that about 85% of Tucson is opportunity zones.
Really? Very interesting.
It's pretty hard not to be in an opportunity zone in Tucson.
That's interesting. So you picked Tucson kind of for that target market situation, but that's in traditional real estate.
Yes.
So you moved there for kind of traditional real estate, yet you have an interesting twist to that and where you've gone. So tell us a little bit of the story and where you've been and how you got here.
Well, like everybody, I started, with traditional real estate, and that was defined in my mind as being fix and flips and or fix up a house and rent it. And I actually did that initially in Dallas, where I was living at the time in 2007. And I managed to make pretty much every mistake that every new investor makes, especially mistakes about estimating incorrectly what it would cost me to do something, estimating incorrectly how much money I would make. My spreadsheets looked great, but it never turned out the way the spreadsheet said it would turn out. And you could put in a beautiful white carpet. I learned not to put in white carpet, by the way. Beautiful white carpet. Discovered that somebody decided that was a great platform for taking their car engine apart and putting it back together again, etc. Put in a great new kitchen, and all the drawers are broken by the time you get the house back. How can you break a kitchen drawer? But you do, etc., etc. The dogs, the water heater that breaks, and everything. All the calls, literally the calls about toilets. They talk about toilets and termites. Really, you do get calls about toilets. It's true. And so it just became. I realized that I wasn't be a landlord. It was more work than I had signed up for. It didn't turn out the way I wanted it to, and I felt that there must be some other thing, and surely that other thing must be not, managing or even delegating to somebody else to manage a property, especially not on the scale that I was doing it, right? So that alternative for me turned out to be Notes.
So fairly typical. NoteSchool has a lot of former landlords. I'll you know what I like to call them, right, Jim? I call them burnout landlords.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a common pattern. You've been to NoteSchool events and seen kind of our audience, and that certainly is a pattern that we have those kind of guys. And so you came through a lineage that had a long history with NoteSchool and a real estate investor group out in Arizona. And they introduced Brian because he was a speaker, and they said, this guy's going to talk about not doing real estate, but something secured by real estate, and boom, you got started. So what was that journey a little bit? And I think it's interesting for the audience, like what was fears that you may have had when you started and now you can almost even laugh at?
Yeah. So first of all, that journey, I'm one of those kinds of people, Eddie. I don't know if I even mentioned this to you, but I know other people that are like me, and I'll bet some people listening today are going to say, I'm like Jim in that regard. I'm pretty much a sucker. I'll sign up for every training there is, whatever it is. If it's about buying land, I'll sign up for it. If it's about flipping, I'll sign up for it. If it's about residential assisted living, I'll sign up for it. Everything, I sign up for it all. And I take them all. And I can tell you straight up from day one, my experience at NoteSchool was at completely a different level. I said to myself, oh my goodness, these guys are they're talking about stuff that's really at a higher level. It's not just, rah, go do this, I think there's some level of that in every, but my goodness, it's the real deal, and it's leaning in and it's solving, real problems in creative ways and smart people. And so that got me really pulled in a big way. I mean, imagine, being pulled into such an extent that you're attending like 3 sessions a week, with one program, and making sure that your calendar is free, because if you miss a session, you could miss something really important. So that was really, but the other part of your question, Eddie, was about fears. And for me, the fear or the obstacle was that I didn't really have people in my network, including people that were very experienced. I mean, thousands of deals that I work with, who had any idea how to have a problem on financing, or how to structure a note, or how to make a note structure better, and so on, all those kinds of things. And so what I've learned is that if you play too long as a lone ranger and you're trying to figure everything out yourself, or if you've got like a close-knit team of people that are always the same people, and practically speaking, they're just saying yes to whatever you say, you can get pretty soft around the middle pretty fast. And so you really do need to have people that are challenging your ideas and so forth and so on. And that is what I found with NoteSchool, and that accelerated me a lot.
Yeah, we call it an ecosystem. And I think that's what it is. I mean, and as you said, and thank you for your compliments about NoteSchool. We are, long veterans in the business, teaching a business that we have done. Literally, our executive team has done it more than anybody else in our industry, which is highly unique, that we're the company that also provides training. A lot of time training is provided by people with, let's be fair about it, fairly limited experience, right? So I thank you for that. But more importantly, it is the Bible says, as iron sharpens iron, right? It's that. And so I think that's the thing. I have a passion. I was in a conversation with a data source this morning, Jim, and This person, they knew me from the past, and they call me and they says, Eddie, your name keeps coming up that you are like bringing to a laser point voids in the market. And we're a data source. And if we could pull data to this market condition, then you could show our clients how to go work and market to those market conditions. And I said, of course I can. I said, that's what I do. I show people voids in the market and creative finance strategies that could fix voids in the market. And you know what those two things are, Jim. If somebody's selling a house right now, I wouldn't be fooling with a homeowner. To be perfectly honest with you, I don't think I can compete with the realtors. Redfin already says that. Landlords, Jim, are bleeding, and they're not going to, they're at the rate they should, they're not going to the realtors to solve their problems. We can get into the psychology of why they're not, but statistically they're not, correct?
Correct, yes.
The other thing is we have June 30th is a sunset date for this moratorium. And we listen, Jim, we have millions of mortgages that are either been forbearance or in default. And now these people are now going to be facing a foreclosure situation.
Yes.
In fact, state of the industry last week, I gave the top states for both rent moratorium and foreclosure moratorium. So those are people that, once again, to me, I would be calling a realtor because they can sell anything right now. If I were in trouble in my mortgage, I would bail out and sell at the top of the market and get my loan paid off. But is that what people are doing? Not at a very high rate. I mean, we're talking way less than 50%. We are thinking about 25 to 35% of the people are calling a realtor and working at solving a problem. Maybe it's not on the market yet, but they're working at it. What we're being told is, though, that 70%-ish aren't. And that sounds to me like an opportunity for a real estate investor. That's what you're talking about, right? It's not just working loans on a whiteboard, and we're pretty good at that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's got to be more than that. You got to go figure out the void in the market and strategically how to solve a problem.
Yes.
Now, you've moved into Notes. You've become very successful at working with passive investors. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, again, this is so much an enriching experience where I have the ability to sound off ideas with other people that are part of NoteSchool, and and I'm talking about people who are very experienced. I mean, like selling 200 homes a year. These are the kinds of people that we're talking about. So what ends up happening is that, from the name NoteSchool, people might think, oh, that's probably some kind of like a training program where you can consume some content and then you can get up to a certain level of understanding about notes. And it is that. But very quickly, if you lean in and study, it morphs into your mind group. And that. So this ability to work with other people. And yes, Eddie, I mean, in the summer summit, I shared some ideas or things that I was able to do that were slight, twists or turns on what some other people are doing. And in turn, the other people are sharing ideas with me. So it all comes together. But yeah, I mean, I think in about a 2 or 3 week period, because of a variety of about 350 people reach out to me and say, I really want to work with you, Jim, and I could see what you're doing. And so, last Monday I was at a Memorial Day barbecue with a couple of investors who found from Denver, and these guys raised $80 million last month, and they wanted to talk to me. It's like, the reason that they wanted to talk to me was a variety of things, but one of them was, and by the way, you can imagine, I wanted to talk to them too. I mean, somebody that can raise $80 million a month and is deploying money at that scale knows a lot about a lot of things that I could learn from. So yeah. I am kind of stunned that somebody wants to talk to me, but it has to do the way I have some of the deals that I've done. Wow, I didn't realize that you could do that. How did you do that? Can you set up an hour and a half call with me? Let's talk. And so, that whole process is very virtuous. You do a little thing, you do a simulation, you check with other people that know what they're doing. They beat it up a little bit, and other people get interested in what you're doing. It grows a little bit. You innovate a little bit. People beat it up again, grows a little bit. It's like that.
Yeah, I think, Jim, if I look at what I say is your genius, and you're a rookie at Note School, meaning you've been with us less than a year, but you do some very smart things that most seasoned people in Note School have learned to do well, and that is you've got your messaging right. You understand what people with passive money want, and you do a great job of articulating that and taking them to strategies that you could help them with. That's the magic.
Yeah, and it's also about, the mindset. I think everybody can recognize this. At the end, I had a call yesterday with a potential investor. It was scheduled to be 45 minutes. It was husband out of the country, actually, Canada, and ended up spending an hour and a half together. And at the end of the call, they said, "So Jim, this is really great. We learned a lot. Can you tell me, just so that I know what kind of box to put you in, what you're looking for, what kind of thing you want to sell me, so I can keep track of that?" And I said, and I had never been asked that question quite that way before, but the answer to me was obvious. I said, that's the question is, what do you need? What do you need? Do you need a short-term note? Do you need a longer-term note? What are your risk tolerance? I need to conform myself to what you need, and that's really the key to everything. If we're all just paying attention to what somebody needs and then delivering what they really need, then of course everything is going to go well.
That's a nugget right there. That's a nugget. Instead of trying to go be the sales guy and say, "I can do blah, blah, blah for you," you turned it around on them with complete sincerity, but you turned it around and said, "No, what can I help you with?" And I will guarantee you they will remember that part of the conversation long days in the future. That is a great idea. All right, so we've got a lot of different things that I want to talk about, and we're going to have a little after party, so we'll have a little thing after the thing. But I wanted to kind of just take the show part, the segment part within the show, and just kind of end this with, like, why do you do this? What's your real passion? What does this mean to you? What you're describing freedom to me, and I want to know what freedom gets for you.
Yeah, it's interesting, because Eddie, as you know, I came, and as you referenced, I came to Notes and Note School after I had things pretty well sorted for myself. So, Notes and Note School is not an end to get to something else. There's not like a Margaritaville at the end of that journey. I'm doing this because it's something that is itself something that I care a lot about. And, that people talk about passion, but I like to use the word heart. To me, I think the word heart points in a better direction sometimes than the word passion. So, when I look at, and I do traditional investing as well, and I look at somebody in the trades that applies an old world stucco technique, and they're doing it with care and love, or somebody that's a painter and they know how to mix paint and gesso and create something that's very beautiful and unique, or somebody that does woodworking and does it, in a very nice way, or a gardener who studies about the needs of each of their plants so that they can really deliver to that garden and to each of those plants what they really need, then that's heart. And the same thing should apply in the world of investment. So if we are leaning forward and thinking about what people really need, and taking care that every time we receive an email or every time we have a conversation, we're focusing on how do we do that in the best possible way, then that's heart. And if people feel that, then that's the whole reward right there for me. Just delivering that
So
result.
you're positioning yourself, obviously building a legacy, but you're positioning yourself to help people. You're applying that art, like you described the painter or the woodworker. You're applying the art of creative financing, not only helping yourself, but helping people that are passive investors in what accomplishing their goal. And that's a great analogy. I hadn't quite thought of it the way you described it so beautifully. And that's a good way to think about it.
Yeah.